They say some places carry memories, memories that refuse to die. Tonight we check into a hotel where darkness lingers in every corner, and once you step inside, you may never truly leave. This isn't just a story, it's a warning. Welcome to one of the most chilling hotel experiences ever recorded. It was supposed to be a cheap, quick stay. Back in 2019, I flew to LA for a few job interviews. Last-minute travel meant last-minute bookings, and I ended up finding this insanely cheap room downtown. It was the old Cecil Hotel. I'd vaguely heard about it before, something about a girl disappearing in the water tank, a few serial killers who'd lived there, but honestly, at the time, I just needed a bed and a roof. The lobby felt old, not vintage, not charming, just tired. A heavy scent of mildew clung to the air. The elevator was one of those old cage-like ones where you had to pull the gate closed yourself. Room 1402. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean enough. Tiny window, battered desk, small bed, perfectly forgettable. I should have known it wouldn't stay that way. The first weird thing happened around 2 a.m. I was lying in bed, trying to sleep despite the buzzing fluorescent light in the hallway outside my door. That's when I heard it. Soft tapping. At first, I thought it was coming from the window, but the room was so small that it became clear pretty fast it was the door. 3 slow, deliberate taps. I froze. I waited for a voice to knock and housekeeping, or security or something. Nothing. Just silence. I stayed frozen in bed, heart pounding, staring at the door. Then the handle jiggled. Softly but definitely, someone was trying the door. I jumped up, deadbolted it again, even though I had already locked it earlier. "Hello?" I called out, my voice cracking. No answer. Footsteps retreated slowly down the hall. I told myself it was just some drunk guy, wrong room, no big deal. But when I finally got back into bed, something didn't sit right. Something heavy pressed down on my chest, a feeling I hadn't felt since I was a kid scared of the dark. Around 3:30 a.m., I woke up to the sound of running water. The bathroom sink was on. I know I hadn't used it before bed. My throat tightened as I got up and crept toward the bathroom door, which was half closed. As I pushed it open, the faucet turned off by itself. The room went silent again. No one there. I backed away, whispering, "Nope, nope, nope," to myself like a prayer. I packed up my stuff in a frenzy, planning to get the hell out of there right then and there. When I opened the door to the hallway, it was empty, but all the lights were flickering violently. As I made my way to the elevator, I passed a door marked 1402. It was wide open, but the room beyond was pitch black. In that darkness, I swear I saw movement. A shape just standing there, watching. I didn't wait to find out. I took the stairs all the way down, almost breaking my neck in the process. When I got to the lobby, the night clerk barely looked up. I mumbled something about emergency and leaving early. He didn't even blink, just slid me a clipboard to sign. It was almost like he was used to it. When I finally got into my rental car and drove away, I felt that heavy pressure on my chest lift. I later found out room 1402 had been the site of multiple suicides back when the Cecil was at its most infamous. Sometimes I wonder if something there was trying to invite me to stay longer. Permanently. In 2014, I stayed at a hotel in downtown Los Angeles during a trip to visit some college friends. I didn't know anything about the hotel's history when I booked it. It was cheap, close to the places we wanted to explore, and from the photos looked alright. What I didn't realize was that the hotel had a different name when it was infamous. The Cecil Hotel. The place where people had disappeared, where people had died. I found that out much later. The first night was fine. I checked into a small, cramped room on the 10th floor. The walls were thin. I could hear the elevators creaking up and down all night, but I wrote it off as just an old building. It wasn't until the second night that things got strange. I was coming back late around 11 p.m. and decided to take the elevator instead of the stairs. When the doors opened, there was no one inside. I pressed 10. The doors stayed open. I pressed door close. Nothing. I thought maybe it was just slow, but after nearly a full minute, the doors were still wide open. I was about to step off and try another elevator when I heard it. A soft, wet, dragging sound, like bare feet sliding across the floor, coming from down the hall. I stepped back into the elevator and frantically hit the door close button again. This time the doors slowly slid shut. The ride up was excruciatingly slow. Every floor the elevator passed, I felt a pressure like someone was standing inches away from me, breathing down my neck. When I finally reached my floor, I practically ran to my room. I barely slept. At around 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of water running, but it wasn't coming from my bathroom. It sounded like it was coming from inside the walls. A slow, heavy trickle, almost like something leaking or something being dragged. I turned on every light in the room and sat on the bed, fully clothed, until morning. The next day, I mentioned it casually to a friend who lived in LA. Her face went pale. "You're staying where?" she asked. When I told her, she immediately told me to get out. She said the Cecil had been shut down for a while after the death of a girl named Elisa Lam. They found her body in a water tank on the roof. She'd been missing for weeks. Guests had been complaining about water pressure issues and bad tasting water before they found her. She said there were rumors Elisa had been acting strangely in the elevator the night she disappeared, like she was hiding from someone or something. There's even video footage, she said. Footage that shows her frantically pressing elevator buttons, stepping in and out of the car, looking terrified. I didn't finish my stay. I checked out immediately. As I was leaving, dragging my suitcase toward the lobby, I swear I heard it again. That soft, dragging sound, following me down the hall. I didn't turn around. When I got outside into the sunlight, it felt like surfacing from underwater. I don't know what happened to Elisa Lam. I don't know what haunts those walls. But I do know this. Some places collect tragedies. Some places never let them go. And if you ever find yourself in an elevator that won't close its doors, get out before something else gets in. Last winter, I had to travel for a work conference in a small city I'd never been to before. The company booked my hotel, a place I'd never heard of, but it was downtown, cheap, and near the conference center, so I didn't think much of it. The hotel itself was strange. Old, tired, quiet. The front desk clerk barely looked up when I checked in. The lobby smelled faintly of cigarette smoke and dust. It felt like stepping into a place stuck 20 years in the past. They handed me the key, an actual metal key, not a card, and told me I'd be staying in room 209. As I rode the elevator up, I noticed how empty the place was. I didn't pass a single other guest in the hallways. Room 209 was at the far end of a dimly lit corridor. The overhead lights flickered, and the carpet was threadbare, patterned with faded floral prints that might have once been cheerful, but now just looked sad. When I unlocked the door, the room felt colder than the hallway. It was a basic setup: small bed, cheap dresser, a tiny TV bolted to the wall. But something about it felt off like the air inside hadn't been disturbed in a long time. Still, I was tired from the drive. I threw my bag on the chair and decided to take a shower. The bathroom was old, cracked tiles and a mirror with darkened edges. When I stepped out of the shower, the mirror was fogged over, and written into the fog, I swear I saw something. A word. Leave. I blinked, wiped the mirror clean. Nothing there. Just my reflection, looking pale and rattled. I told myself it must have been my imagination. Steam patterns, nothing more. But as the night wore on, the room got colder. I kept fiddling with the thermostat, but the heater stayed silent. Around 1:30 a.m., I was lying in bed, half asleep when I heard it. A knocking sound, faint, deliberate, coming from the closet door across the room. 3 knocks. Slow, even. I sat up, my heart thudding. The closet door was shut. I hadn't opened it since arriving. Another 3 knocks. I tried to convince myself it was just the building settling. Old pipes. Anything but what it sounded like. I turned on the TV for noise, but it barely worked. Static buzzed across the screen. The remote barely responded. Then, over the static, I heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. Louder this time. Against my better judgment, I grabbed the chair and wedged it under the doorknob to the closet. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to know. I left the lights on and curled up under the covers, staring at the door. At some point, I must have drifted into an uneasy sleep, because I woke up around 3:00 a.m. to something even worse. The chair was knocked over. The closet door was cracked open just barely, but enough that I could see darkness beyond it, and the room was freezing. I grabbed my phone, heart racing. I was about to call the front desk when I noticed something else. In the reflection of the TV screen, not on the screen itself, but in the reflection, I saw a shape standing by the closet door. Tall, thin. Still, I spun around, but there was nothing there. When I looked back at the reflection, it was gone too. That was it. I threw on my clothes, shoved everything into my bag, and bolted out of room 209. I didn't even bother checking out of the desk. I just left. I ended up sleeping in my car that night in a nearby supermarket parking lot. When morning finally came, I went back to the hotel to officially check out. The clerk barely reacted. It was almost like he was used to it. As I handed back the key, he glanced at my paperwork and said, almost absently, "You were in 209, huh?" I nodded, not really wanting to talk about it. He hesitated for a second, then muttered under his breath, "That room always has problems." I didn't ask him what he meant. I didn't want to know. All I know is that I'll never stay in a hotel without reading the reviews again. Some rooms aren't just empty. Some rooms are waiting. Hotels are meant to be temporary homes, places to rest, to hide from the world outside. But sometimes, something is already waiting inside those walls. Old tragedies, forgotten whispers, restless shadows. They don't care if you just booked a room for one night. Because once you cross the threshold, you're part of the story too. And not every guest gets to check out.